Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is TheSketchMonkey here. Today we're having a look at BMW's first M car when it comes to full EVs. This is the i4 M50. It's got more power than a BMW M3, but it also weighs about 1,000 pounds more. So what we're gonna do in this video is, of course, we need to talk about this design. The front end, has it grown on me with the two big kidneys in the front? The side view, this being the Grand Coupe, having 4 doors and with the hatchback design in the rear, I actually think this looks better than the 4 Series Coupe and the M4. We're gonna have a look at the side, the rear, the interior, and then we're gonna take this for a drive. First of all, let's have a quick walk around of the i4 M50. I'm going to show you the sticker in just a minute, what option this color is and how much this color is. We also have the exterior carbon fiber package on this. We also have the high performance wheel and tire setup, which gives you these beautiful 20-inch wheels. And I'm telling you, this car is insanely fast. I can't wait to show you and take you for a drive in just a minute. Looking at the overall proportions from a side view, I do think, as I said, this looks better than the 4 Series, because now we have this broken shoulder line that I've talked about so many times before. One line here, a second line here, and then another line here. It's not a straight line, but it just works better on this car, in my opinion. So let's jump in here before we go into the design, because I need to show you the sticker that we have for this car and all the options that comes with this specific i4. So we have, let's see here, the ultimate driving machine. When I saw that with the sticker, I was really excited and I wanted to see if this is actually the ultimate driving machine, even though it's still an EV. So we have a 2024 BMW i4 M50 Grand Coupe with the 20-inch wheels. We have the violet blue, and look at the price for this color. It's $4,500 for this specific color. Then we have the Mocha Vernasca leather, which is this leather right here, looking very nice and clean. That's $1,500. Shadowline package, you obviously want that because it blacks out everything that's usually chrome. You have the premium package, as we talked about, the cooling and high performance tire package, $2,500 for these tires. And these tires are actually 285s in the rear, so it's staggered, 285 in the rears with the 20s. And what that does to the range, it drops the range from 270 miles down to 230 miles. So having these fatter rear tires definitely affects the range. That's something you want to think about if you're considering getting this car. But I personally would definitely go for the 20s and also the 285s, because I just think it looks so good and so planted. Then you can see the rest of everything that's included here until we come down to the exterior. Let's see here, the M Carbon exterior package, $2,800. Going to show you what that includes on the exterior. Total price for this is, the base price $69,700, comes out as this one is spec to $87,845. So with that said, let's pop this back in the glove box here and let's walk outside and let's check out this car, because as I said, I do think this looks better than the 4 Series Coupe. The reason for it is, I don't know, the proportions works better, but we still have the kidneys in the front end. And here you can see this carbon fiber package, the exterior details. For example, we have some carbon fiber here. We also have carbon fiber side mirrors. Gonna have a look at that in a minute. We have the laser LEDs, which is also an option. Means that they dance around a little bit when you turn it on. It's also adaptive full LED, obviously. They changed these LEDs, the daytime run lights, for the 2025 model. So now it looks more like it has 2 scars in the front end. And I'm not sure which one I prefer. I think I actually prefer the facelift with the 2 scars as daytime run lights, because it looks a little bit more dynamic than this. But have a look at all the lines that happen up here in the hood. The designers went crazy with the pen, sketching out these lines. But as you can see, every single line here, except for maybe this one in the middle, has a connection to what's going on in the front end. Because this line has a clear connection here to the corner of this big grille going up to the A-pillar, and this also sweeps around the side here, and then continues also almost connecting with this grille, this corner of the grille in the front end. Again, we do have the big kidneys in the front, which I'm still not a huge fan of how they implemented these kidneys in the front. And in this case, they said that they wanted the kidneys this big because they needed more cooling. But since this is the i4 EV, we don't really need a lot of cooling in the front end. So what they did here, which looks pretty weird to me, they covered up this entire section. The top part of the grills are all covered up, and then we have a small opening down here with some active slots behind it for when you need some additional cooling. You also have the radar integrated on the driver's side kidney. So one piece of the kidney has an additional covered up piece here. It just looks it looks way too messy for me. And you have different graphics. These graphics, you know, in combination with these graphics and then some other graphics down here, it's just a lot going on in the front end for this car. But I do love the shadow line, and I do love this exterior blue color. It just looks beautiful. I'm not sure if it's worth $4,500 to put this color on this car though. Now coming around to the side view, and as you can see, this is again the Grand Coupe, meaning that we do have, this is not a sedan, it is in fact a hatchback. We also have the same lines that we have in the 4 Series, meaning that we do have this shoulder line being then faded out in the door panel, but it comes back in the lower section again. And then once again, it comes back up top here. So we have sort of a broken shoulder line for this car. And I don't know, it just looks better on the Grand Coupe than it does on the 4 Series Coupe. And last but not least, for the side view, we do have the carbon fiber mirrors, and we have this beautiful, absolutely stunning wheels. Thank you, BMW, for not making these wheels entirely black. Add some splash of silver in there. It looks way better because now we can actually appreciate this design and what's going on in the wheels. And as I said, 285s in the rear, which is a very fat tire specifically to put on an EV. But I actually love that BMW did that. And as you know, this was not developed as a standalone EV. This is of course based on the 4 Series, which is going to affect the range, which also means that we don't have a frunk in this case. Let's see what size we have for the wheels in the front. So we have 285s in the rear, we have 255s, still 20s all around. So they didn't make the staggered setup like you do on the M3, where you have 20s in the rear, 19s in the front. I'm really glad they put 20s all around. And as you can see, this is what I'm talking about. When you have 20s all around, it just looks so much better. It just looks less Hot Wheelie. Another detail that is sort of intact on this 4 Series Grand Coupe or i4 is that we do have a kind of, you can probably make this out to be a Hofmeister kink in here. Again, this blue color is gorgeous. When you have the optional performance tires package, you get this extra flare here, which again just adds to the sportiness and makes it look more like a proper M car, and also widens the track when you look at it from a straight rear view. I do think maybe the 3/4 rear view is probably going to be my favorite view for this, because if we move back here to the rear view, you can see that we have very similar styling to what we have in the 4 Series and the Grand Coupe 4 Series as well when it comes to the taillight. Big, juicy LED. And I don't get why they put such a dynamic taillight in here with a thicker piece here going into a much thinner piece as it fades going into the middle. And in the front end, it just looks so static with those small LEDs, daytime run lights, with the same thickness in them. This just looks so much better and so much more BMW. And you can see just how planted it looks with the 285 tires with the 20-inch wheels. It just looks so good, even though it drops the range down to 230 miles. Now popping this hatchback, you can check out what's going on under here. It is a rather large opening since it is a hatchback, thankfully. You can fold down the rear seats if you want to, and here you have the charger and the cables and everything you need to charge your car. Underneath here we do get some subwoofer, I think that is, and also some additional stuff right there on the right side with another storage compartment all the way up here. So let's close this back down, because I also want to show you what's actually, like, if you don't have a frunk, what do you get under this massive hood? Keep in mind that this is a dual motor all-wheel drive, so we're gonna have a lot of mechanics or cooling systems under here. And you can see that it's just a big flat piece of plastic. You can't open anything up here. I don't think you can open these either. So this is just a big piece of plastic up here. There's no storage whatsoever. But I don't know, it doesn't really matter, because to me, every EV I've had and driven, I've personally never ever used the frunk, so I would probably not use it in this case either. With that said, we talked about this exterior with this violet blue $4,500 option. Let me know what you think about the BMW i4. Is this a win, or is it still too controversial, specifically the front end for you? I forgot to mention that we also have these big carbon fiber pieces. First of all, this spoiler up top, part of the carbon fiber exterior package, and this big indent in the bumper here is also all carbon fiber. So I would say that the exterior carbon fiber package is worth it, because you do get a lot of carbon fiber on the exterior. That said, let's jump in and have a look at this interior. First of all, these door handles sitting flush with the body. I like that. It's not very hard to figure out how you open this, but it also sits flush. It doesn't stick out like this, old school style. So let's open this up and have an overview of what's going on in this interior with this optional leather setup that we have. I really like these seats. They're fantastic. We also have a lot of carbon fiber going on in the interior. The door panels look very clean, super nice. We have some nice stitching here, brown leather, same as we have on the seats, with some metal looking trim up top. You have the memory seat settings here, and of course the regular settings for the window switches and the trunk opening down here. A couple of cup holders. Let's have a look at the rear back seat as well. We are going to sit in here, so I'm going to sit behind my own driving position, which is how I drive the car. So I'm 6'1". I'm going to see if I can fit behind my own driving position here. There's really nothing going on crazy here in the back seat. So let's jump in the driver's seat and have a look at all the tech, spec and tech that you get going on in here. Let's fire this up. First of all, we have a blue button instead of a red button, because again, this is a full EV. Now, the sound details in here, the sound effects that you get in the i4 were actually composed by Mr. Christopher Nolan's favorite composer for his movies, and that is Hans Zimmer, who's, if you know him, you know his work. Fantastic work with movies, Interstellar, Batman, a bunch of different movies. Pretty much every single movie that he makes the score for, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna know that it's going to be a great movie. So all those sounds that you hear in this car, even when you're driving, were all composed by Hans Zimmer. I think that's a very cool little detail. Now, you do have this setup, the iDrive 8 system for the i4, and I've talked about this a lot before. You have sort of a curved glass screen that is a double screen, one for the gauge cluster, a bigger one for the infotainment screen. The graphics themselves, if you switch between different drive modes, you're gonna see that the entire vibe changes. Now so let's go to sport here, for example. You can set it up individually if you want to. Comfort looks very calming. You have some mountains similar to what we have here actually. And then when you go to Eco Pro, and it turns into these waves and cool blue shades. You also have ambient lighting here all across the interior. You can barely see it now at daylight, but it goes through the doors and also into the back seats over there, looking nice. Subtle, a little bit more subtle than what Mercedes is doing. I like that. In this case, we also have the head-up display, which also changes design based on what drive mode you are in. Pretty interesting there. I'm going to keep it in sport for now. Now, everything here with this infotainment screen, what I don't like, and I've said this before, I feel like I just say it over and over again, but the climate control settings for BMW these days is just not intuitive enough. You have to, first of all, click the fan button here, and then you have all these graphics. And if you want to change the temperature, it's pretty easy to do that. And I actually do think they updated this, because previously they just had circles for every single setting. The fan speed, the temperature up and down was a different circle, but now it feels a little bit more intuitive because the temp buttons down here are always going to be static. You have heated seats, but you don't have cooled seats in this i4. Something that I think you would probably want to have for the price you're paying for this car. You have the fan speed here. The graphics look very futuristic. Up and down for the fan speed itself, where you want the air to blow out from. You just click on the sort of the fan for where you want it hitting the seats. In my opinion, a little bit too complex. I just want to have an array of buttons here. Bring that back, please, BMW. Bring back a couple of buttons here for the climate control settings. You can have everything. You can even still have this big screen up here. I don't care. You also have a bunch of different apps here. I'm not going to go through every single app because there are a lot of them. Now, moving further down, we do have this beautiful carbon fiber here. I love that the carbon fiber from the exterior comes in the interior as well. Looks very clean. We also have some very nice vents here, easy to use, a lot easier in the new than what we have in the new 7 Series, for example. And further down, we do have one knob, and this knob is the only knob you get in this entire interior from what I'm seeing, and that is the volume knob. Further down, we do have this carbon fiber lid, again looking beautiful with this metal looking trim on the side. Open this up, you're gonna find yourself a wireless charger here, two cup holders, and this is what the key looks like. Pretty normal looking key, but you can see that we do have some special stuff going on here because we do have the M buttons, M colors on the side, and we have a cigarette outlet, a couple of USBs here inside as well. Further back, this, if you're driving BMWs, you've seen this 1,000 times before. It's just the same buttons that we have in pretty much every new BMW. You can also use this dial to sort of navigate the screen if you want to do that. I don't know which one is easier, probably just the touchpad on the screen. You have traction control off. Pressing this button here is going to pop up the front camera, and of course if you put it into reverse, you're going to have the full 3D camera here with the different views which you can check out, trajectory lines of course, and if you want to, you can stop the car and just have a look at all these camera settings here on each side of the car. I like that it is still in the same color. We have the drive settings here, Sport, Comfort, Eco, Pro. I just showed you the different vibes that we get in the gauge cluster, for example, when we toggle through these. I like to have it in Sport because it feels completely different when you have it in Sport compared to when you have it in any other drive settings. We're going to talk more about that when we take this for a drive later on. Further back, same leather that we have on the seats here, looking beautiful. We can open this up. We do have this M key card, so if you don't want to have your keys on you, or if you want to lend this card to somebody, you just give them this key and they can use this card and they can use this as a key. And you also have a USB-C port right there. Now moving on to the steering wheel. Typical BMW steering wheel, you do have these LEDs here, which is for the automatic cruise control. So these light up when the automatic cruise control is enabled. I like the integration of these LEDs. They just look very flush and tight, futuristic style. You have the M logo down here and the M stitching on the inside. Heated steering wheel button. In typical BMW fashion, they just decided to, let's just put the heated steering wheel on the third spoke down here as a separated button. I don't know, it feels a little bit Italian to me to just have this weird positioning of that button. On the right side, you have controls for the radio settings and the voice commands, and here you have the controls for the cruise control settings. The right stalk is all about controlling the wipers in the front, and here you have the indicators and the light settings on the left side. We're gonna talk more about the gauge cluster and specifically the range. The range in this car. You can tell that this was not designed to be an EV because the range drops very, very fast when you're in sport mode. And even if you're just driving around normally, that has, again, to do a lot with the rear 285 fat tires that we have in the back. Up top, you do have a sunroof here, which you can open and close. And last but not least, you do have a glove box. So overall, this interior, I don't know, let me know what you think about this. When you're looking at it like this, from a driver perspective, you don't really mind the two screens because this still looks like a proper gauge cluster. You have clear visibility right through this area of the steering wheel. But when you start to analyze the rest of the integration, specifically this legendary bracket here, hardware, how the screen is attached to the dash, I just don't feel like it's BMW enough, and I do think they could have worked a little bit better on that. But let's jump in to the back seat before we go into the fun stuff, which is taking this car for a drive, because this is insanely fast. It just launches like a rocket when you step on it. The rear seat here, let's see if I can fit behind my own driving position. It's a little bit tight, I have to be honest, because my legs, as you can see, not the most space back here. Headroom, though, is decent, and this is the Grand Coupe. It's not a proper sedan, so I'm surprised by that. I have decent headroom, but I would not want to sit back here for a very long time, specifically if my driver is the same height as me. If we fold down the center armrest, let's see, do we have cup holders here? 1, 2, 3. Yes, we do. Check this out. We also have climate control settings for the rear seats. Okay guys, now it's time for the fun stuff here, and that is actually taking this EV. EV and fun has never really been in the same sentence for me up until I drove this car. It's very hot in here, turning on the AC. So I'm gonna keep it in as we go out of this parking lot here. It's very bumpy, as I'm sure you know already from watching reviews from here before. There we go, bump going over this in comfort now, just to keep it a little bit chill. We're 75% of range. Forget this, specifically with the 20-inch wheels. Just be prepared to go to the charger a lot. I'm not sure if you're even getting the claimed 230-mile range, because it feels like a lot less when you're driving this car. But for some reason, I'm just happy BMW did that. They didn't go all EV like Mercedes did with the design and the wheels and everything. They still kept it looking like a proper M car. Because when you have those wheels in the rear, I just love the feeling of knowing that I'm driving this car with the fat 285 tires in the back. It just feels solid and planted. And I love that BMW went with that direction. Bring down the range a little bit, and instead keep the spirit of the proper M cars when it comes to the design. When we take it out here to the main road, one thing I want you to notice is the sound effects that you get from this car. Now, they are of course all artificial, but for some reason I do think that adds to the dramatic feeling that you get, because EVs to me, otherwise, the problem I have with driving EVs is, yes, they're the quickest cars on the road today, but they feel like they're doing it without any passion. They feel like, okay, let's go quick, I don't care, I'll just press the gas or the accelerator in this case, and you can go fast. I'm not gonna struggle, or it doesn't feel like I'm in with you in this enjoyment of driving. But with this car, that specific detail is the detail that feels different. And now we're coming out to this main road, so I'm gonna move away from the cyclist here so he doesn't yell at me when I step on it later on, even though he can't really, he's not gonna hear anything, maybe some tire squeal, that's it. Having it in sport mode, what it does, first of all, it enhances the sound that you get from this car. And it makes it feel like, if you have it in comfort, it feels like it's just, the car is just chilling on the couch, watching some TV, and then when you press it into sport, it just tenses up and it's always ready to go. You can feel the entire car just tense up, and I love that about the sport settings here. It's a proper sport mode when you're driving this car, and the handling for what this is, I mean, over 5,000 pounds in this car. It handles really well, and it doesn't really necessarily feel heavier than, for example, the M3 CS that I drove, which was one of the best BMWs I've ever driven, the new CS. This is still so much fun to drive, and it is so quick. It's insane how fast this car is. It's actually faster than an M3. The official numbers are not really the truth from BMW. Does 0 to 60 in, I do believe, 3.4 seconds. This car top speed is limited to about 130 miles, and it just pulls. I think the instant torque is what does it for me here, and this Hans Zimmer artificial spacecraft noise. Oh, it's so much fun to drive. This is by far the most fun I've ever had driving an EV. It's still the ultimate driving machine, and well done BMW for designing this car and engineering it to still feel this fun to drive when you're in an EV. I'm gonna let you listen to the noise when you're stepping on the accelerator here. Just puts a smile on your face driving this car. The only thing is, I wish we could drive it for so much longer before we had to charge it. Now we're down to 72%. We've been driving it for what, 3 minutes? Yes, we've been pushing it a little bit. And yes, we do have the fat tires in the rear. But still, I wish it had a little bit bigger battery pack. But at the same time, that would add weight and it would add a lot more complications to this car. So I'm not sure. I do think maybe this is the good solution for a BMW full M Grand Coupe 4 Series, to have these specific specs. You're gonna have to charge it a little bit more often than you want to, but that's what you're gonna have to live with. That's a compromise you're gonna have to do. So we're going 20 miles per hour. I'm just gonna floor it here. Let's go. Ooh, man. It is, you get that roller coaster feel in your stomach every time you're stepping on this. It's insanely fun to drive. I never thought I would say that about an EV, but here we are. So you get 536 horsepower, just under 590 pound-feet of torque. Dual motors, meaning that we do have supposedly all the traction that we need, but when you're stepping on it, you can still feel it squiggle around a little bit. That's how much torque you're putting down in an instant, and I love that about this car. Top speed, as I said, limited to, I do believe, 130 miles or something like that, but this is not about the top speed, this car. This is about roads like this and just having fun and trying to make the most out of an EV. And I don't think I've touched the brake one single time driving this road, so you can use it as a one-pedal driving, no problems at all. We're at a standstill here, no car behind me, and let's go a 0 to 60 here. And there we hit 60, and that was uphill. Last but not least, we need to check if the acceleration is fine, but does it still have the proper M brake capacity? So let's go up to 60 here, and let's just floor the brakes. Oh yeah, the brakes are also still there.